This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you get.
You have located GeekFest Rants, the entertainment podcast for genre geeks like you.
Shall we play a game?
Covering the world of vintage and current film and television since 2010.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Featuring in-depth conversations on sci-fi, horror, fantasy, comics, toys, and conventions.
So say we all. So say we all.
And now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show.
I've spent a year searching for that domino that tipped over and started all of this.
You believe in ghosts.
What does that mean?
That badge on your shirt.
I watched this office every day, believing that my hope was not in vain. And that hope is you, Commander Burnham.
This ship bears the name Discovery. She has carried us into the future. And it will be our privilege to make that future bright.
Let's see how this plays out, shall we?
Where will you go?
Wherever the answers are.
Hi everybody, and welcome once again to GeekFest Rants. My name is Carlos Perron, and today I have Steve Folks joining me. We are going to be talking about Star Trek. Specifically, the first two short treks, the latest Discovery trailer, and the latest Picard trailer. So it's a short kind of subject in terms of, the shorts are pretty short to begin with. Amazing what they've done so far with these new short treks, and some more preview material that we get to chew on, when it comes to not only the return of Discovery, which won't be for about 2 more months, and the Picard series, which is very, very eagerly anticipated. So let's begin with short treks.
Television is not the truth. Television is an amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business.
All right, I have Steve with me once again. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Carlos. Hello, everyone. Glad to be back.
Yes, as promised, we are gonna nerd out once again with Star Trek. They've already aired 2, I believe, of, what is it, like 5 or 6 short treks?
6, I believe.
So far, I absolutely loved what I've seen. Let's talk about the first episode, Q&A, which... It's funny, when I first saw the trailer, because they had little tiny these are only 15-minute shorts, but they do have a trailer for a 15-minute short. And the trailer, to me, it almost looked like it was going to be a comedy episode, because it was kind of like, it looked almost like Spock stuck in an elevator, like asking really bizarre questions and driving number one crazy. That we are returning to the Pike verse, if you will, some Pike characters. But then when we watched the episode, I'm like, oh wait, this is a lot. This is a little deeper than I thought it was. It's not as light as I thought it was going to be. What did you think?
Yeah, actually, the same thing. Actually, when I saw the trailer for these 2 first short treks, they seem like they were inspired by, at least what I got from it, by like The Office or something. They have like this this very sort of like mundane, everyday sort of sort of vibe to it. But I really like this one. The first one was, like you said, we see Spock first being taken into the Enterprise, and I gotta say, it felt really good to see the crew that we saw in season 2, like the Pike and number 1 and Spock, back on the screen. It did get a bit of a smile from me. It was a really interesting dynamic they had. You think setting up putting them, two characters together in an elevator, sort of cliche, but how it actually played out was actually kind of cool.
What's interesting also is that this takes place before anything we've seen with, Pike, because this is before the last season of Discovery, because last season of Discovery, he was already part of his crew, and then he went away, he was in hiding, blah, blah, blah. But this is his first introduction, so in theory, this is the earliest we've seen Spock in this version of the show, really. He's brand new, brand spanking new, his first day on the job, and off the bat, and this is something they do mention in the script, he's smiling. The second he transports into the ship, you can tell he's like a giddy little boy, Christmas time. He's you could tell he's like jumping out of his skin. And number one even mentioned something like, was that a smile or something like that? And I'm like, oh shit, that it was a smile.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I saw a lot of pushback against that. Like, oh no, Spock can't smile. He has no emotion.
Oh come on.
But it's funny because I believe they put that into the short trek because I think it's the cage that Spock was smiling in that first episode.
Yeah.
And then everyone wants to forget that and just chalk it up to it's the first thing. There's just a mistake. But so I like how they leaned into, they played into that.
Right, but in the original show, like you said, not only, if I remember right, there were episodes where like he's not himself, he's delusional or something, and he's showing emotion and he's smiling, he's crying. Okay, that's true. However, yeah, in the cage, the earlier version of everything, they haven't yet tweaked the character enough to completely remove his humanity, and it wasn't that shocking that all of a sudden he does show some sort of emotion, because again, they hadn't tweaked the character enough. So it's like, yeah, it happened.
Yeah, and I like how they leaned into that. They didn't shy away from it. They said, what, if we're gonna show Spock, the earliest that we've shown him at this point, why not, give him that callback, that trait that we were sort of first introduced to him. Well, I mean, if you were watching it at the time, that you were first introduced to Spock, he had that smile, and I mean, Vulcans aren't emotionalists. They do have, they
suppress it. Right.
Yeah, they're able to suppress it. So, and I think that one moment of him, alone, taking his first step into, into Starfleet, his first starship. Why not, show that emotion? And it's great because they called themselves out on it by giving number one the dialogue saying, was that a smile on your face? Which is just great.
And they kind of work the whole, again, these are very short, so they work the whole thing into it. Now, let's not forget, the story is that they're stuck in an elevator, so they're bored out of their mind, and they're engaged in this exercise that was started before they got stuck in the elevator, and that is, she tells them, ask me as many questions as you can before we get to where we're going, because that's what you're supposed to be doing as your first day. So he's asking all these bizarro questions, and she's going with him. She's going. But she does get to a point where you can tell they're stuck in that elevator for I don't know how long, and she's getting a little tired of his questions. So he kind of starts mixing it up a little bit. But at that point is like when, the rescue is coming. And again, the special effects, they do a really good job. We see not only the elevator, but through CGI, obviously, we get to see the shaft itself that holds the elevator. And you get a better sense of, these are huge. It's like a subway train track in terms of how vast these connections are inside the ship.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Okay, I will preface this by saying, I love the aesthetic of Discovery, and the visual effects are stunning. But one thing that's bothered me all through, and even in the last season, is for whatever reason, they have like this fascination with making their, because this was present in season 2, with making their elevator shafts like this crazy, whimsical looking like roller coaster. Like, if you go back to I think it's the first episode of season 2, where they had the elevator scene, and whenever they show the exterior of the elevator, it's always like this like weird, like it looks like this like cosmic Bill and Ted's looking like
something out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It looks so bizarre. I mean, I'm trying to picture this in my mind, like a starship, like how that fits inside, because you have like decks and you have levels. Like it doesn't look like it fits inside. Like realistically, it doesn't look like it fits inside of a starship. And so I mean, normally this stuff doesn't. I don't care really, but is this something like that? It's like, where is this supposed to be? Like what? Like what? How? Like I would love to see like they have like the cross section books. I would love to see them. I would love to see them try to like finagle this wacky water tube way they have.
I think the problem might be that you cannot envision lighting a shaft so that it looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a shaft. It's supposed to be dark and kind of grimy, but because this is Star Trek world, it's going to look beautiful. Everything's going to look beautiful. They can show you the picture of a toilet and it's going to be beautiful. The most beautiful toilet ever.
Federation flag all over it.
The pipes and the water going into whatever, everything will look. Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Now, another cute little moment was that as soon as he beams into the ship, you hear the classic musical beats of the original Trek. That this is one of the things about this show. They really do good stuff with their music. Sometimes the music is just so different and so of an homage to the original that it sticks out so much. And I have been little by little through some of these mysterious websites that I go to, been acquiring as much of the soundtrack as possible because they really do a good job with the music.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's in fact the composer of who does the music for Discovery is also the same guy who does the music for Legion and a few other TV shows, and he does a fantastic job with like mixing and like taking bits and pieces of music and warping them into the theme and feel of the scene you're seeing. So Jeff Russo is his name, and he does like a fantastic job. And like you'll hear it like in different periods of time. You'll hear like little echoes and callbacks to the earlier series and everything. It's woven in perfectly.
One of the things I noticed that he seems to do really well, and I think he might do it for Legion too, if I remember right when I used to watch the show, he can duplicate this 60s jazzy kind of beats that were very typical for Star Trek's era in terms of the 60s. This I don't even know, how to describe. It's almost like The Incredibles. If it's like you figure somebody in a smoking jacket, with a cigar, having a drink on their hand. It's that kind of music that Sinatra, Dean
Big
Martin
band type thing. Yeah,
that kind of weird little.
That's sort of like
extra.
a lounge type music.
Yeah, exactly. And he throws that in every now and then. Obviously, with the full-blown episodes, he can play a lot more. But even here, he can throw that too. Another cute thing about this episode, by the time it's resolved and he finally gets to the bridge, which is where they were supposed to be going in the first place, one thing I noticed was that when they're exiting the elevator shaft by their, somebody's coming down with a rope, she goes first. And that's, again, to me, that's a nitpicky thing that I have, and that is, she's in command. She should let him go first because he's like the ensign. So as a commanding officer in a dangerous situation, you're supposed to get your crew out first and the person in charge goes last. I know this is ridiculous nitpicking, but they should have fixed that.
That is very interesting. I watched it 3 times now, and I never really picked up. I guess I always. You know what? I guess I've chalked that up to it being like Kirk is always like the first one down and the first one in. He was always the first one on the spot. Throwing himself in the center of attention. So I guess I always just chalked stuff like that of that type of like flashy leading man has to be the first one on the scene. Yeah, but no, you're right though. You're trying. And I
think I know why it's bothering me. I think I know why it's bothering me because I've been binge watching Next Generation for the last couple of weeks, and there was an episode where Picard gets stuck in an elevator with a whole bunch of kids, and it's one of those, you guys go out without me, I'll be okay, and even though he thinks he's going to die, and the kids are like, no, we're all going to go together, or nobody goes, and they're, all right, fine, we'll all go together, and as they're climbing, he is the last one going up the stairs because he's making sure that the kids are in front of him. But it's that whole captain goes down with the ship mentality, that whole thing of, I'm not happy until my crew is safe and then I'll relax, that kind of silliness. But again, that's nitpicking. That's just, I love nitpicking stuff like that. The other thing, there was one particular interaction where number one tells Spock something about Pike, and he says, He's very sentimental about horses. And it's like, is that something that I don't remember from the original? Did you get that reference? Was that
No,
important?
I didn't get that reference. And I feel like, you know, people are going to be screaming at us, you know, as they're listening, like, oh, it was obviously about, you know, episode.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't get it. And I figured it was going to be something maybe they're going to touch on, you know, down the road. But I don't think we're going to see Pike have his own series, you know, in the near future. So I don't know. I didn't get it.
Yeah, and I remember, you know, when this past season ended, and we were speculating about what is the fate of Pike and this whole other world that has been created, you know, the ship, you know, all the visuals, all the CGI that has been created to recreate the Enterprise. Are they just going to get rid of that because it's such a great thing and the fans love it? And now we can kind of see, okay, they're reusing that and those characters, at least on some of these short treks, which is like, okay, cool. I just hope that we get to see more of it.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it seems like such a waste it would be if you know, and especially because you have these actors, you know, pretty much in their prime, basically, you know, willing to. They all seem like they'd be willing to, you know, jump into something like this. So I can only hope down the road, like they might take a page from Disney Plus and just start now. Seriously, start now, like putting out feelers to see what, you know, how they can create like maybe small miniseries or maybe like, you know, 5 or 6 episodes, because it'd be such a waste. I mean, they create like a very hardcore fan base with Pike.
That's a lot of sets to build, you know. That's a lot of set building that you just can't put it in storage. And I also wonder if they shot these episodes, like, did they plan these ahead of time, or were they as a result of... Now, granted, we have more episodes coming that I don't remember exactly what they're about, but did they select these Pike-ish kind of episodes because of the fan reaction, the positive fan reaction to season 2, you know, or was this part of the plan? Who knows? I don't know. You know what I mean?
I have a feeling that these were shot because of the fan, because these, both of them, this one here with Pike and Spock and number 1, this seemed very like one-off. So it felt like they sort of, you know, toss this one in. Just so, you know, last time we had you know 4 of the short tracks. This time, you know, we have 6, so we get a bonus 2 here.
A bonus
as like a reaction to all of the. It didn't seem like it was something planned. Like they wanted to do it, you know, as a way to, you know, to commemorate all those fans who really felt, you know, they wanted to see more of them.
Yeah, definitely, because from what I understand, and this is something that I completely missed when I first heard about it, was that during the last San Diego Comic-Con, Kurtzman talked about how they were going to expand. And the way that they were going to expand was to do 3 stories featuring the Enterprise actors, meaning the Pike crew. And we just watched 2 of those. So we know there's at least another one coming, something to do with the Pike, Spock, and that particular crew. Then we're supposed to get a prequel kind of story to the Picard series. So that's a completely different animal altogether. That will be, you can call episode number 4. Then you have 2 animated stories, you know, as a short trek. Again, at first I'm thinking animated. Well, wait a minute. I know they're supposed to have this animated show called, was it Lower Decks?
Yep, Lower Decks.
Lower Decks, which might be, I think, again, if I'm remembering right, I think it's a Nickelodeon vehicle. That it's supposed to be more kiddie-ish than anything else, I think. From the art that I saw, it's very kid-friendly. But these 2 animated short treks are just regular trek material, except they're being told in an animated manner, and the animation does not match the Lower Decks animation. As a matter of fact, the animations of those 2 episodes are apparently different from each other, the style of the animation. And one of those 2 is directed by Michael Giacchino, the composer of the newer Trek movie scores. So he's kind of jumping on the kind of directing bandwagon now all of a sudden. And I have no idea exactly what those stories will be following. You know, what precise storyline they're going to follow on those stories. And that's something we haven't seen yet. This is completely new.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if those 2 animated short treks will be sort of like more like an anthology where it's just kind of like 2 random stories, or if they sort of piece off together, well, they'll lead now into another anime. Because I did hear some rumbling of another animated series separate from the Nickelodeon, from the Lower Decks one. So maybe those 2 might be tying into this second animated series.
Well, from what I understand, these 2 shorts, because the other shorts are Pike specific and Picard specific, these 2 animated shorts are going to be more Discovery specific because they're neglecting Discovery storylines because of the fact, and we talked about this. We talked about how, the fan reaction was very positive towards Pike. And people were saying, well, why can't we do more Pike stuff? So this is the way of them giving us more Pike stuff. They're kind of funneling it towards the short treks. That's at least for now. But apparently they haven't really closed the door on, is there a future? Is there a spin-off possibility, for the Pike world, if you will? So that might be coming one that we don't know.
Yeah, I think they would be very foolish to close the door on that because I think they have a hefty amount of fans that are pining for more Pike, really, to be honest.
Right. And it doesn't really make too much sense, on this next season, because we know this next season is about them being in the future. There's really no way you can bring Pike into that again. And, Pike made a good presence during the second season. And you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to, give people too much of a good thing because people get tired of a good thing. So, step away from Pike a little bit, but give him to us in very short bursts with these short tricks. I think that makes perfect sense.
Like a fine garnish on a tasty plate of food.
He's the sorbet of Star Trek. The other thing I also noticed, and again, this is a technical thing that you cannot get away with it because you're shooting an entire episode inside an elevator, a very cramped quarters. There were certain shots that were extreme wide-angle shots, and you can tell that they're using a special wide-angle lens because things looked a little distorted in order to be able to create such a wide view of what was happening in there. Which, again, there's nothing you can do about that. That you can't fake a wide-angle lens. It's a wide-angle lens. And it's going to look distorted because that's what a wide-angle lens does to your image when you're in a very cramped environment. So, anyway, this was great. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, by the way, in the episode of The Cage, Pike mentions that he's from Earth and that he has a horse named Tango. So that could be probably what they're referencing.
And you just remember this, right? You're not looking it up on a computer as we're doing
not
it.
at all.
There we go. Okay, I just want to make sure.
We
don't want to mislead people into thinking that we don't really know everything. 2 more little facts about this episode. Obviously, the weird part in it, the big funny moment is when all of a sudden, number one, she, because he's revealing something about himself, about his emotions, in terms, that kind of thing. And then she's like, well, I have to, she wants to tell him, or he wants her to tell him something personal because they're stuck in this thing. And she starts to sing, I guess from a Broadway play or something like that. And they both actually start singing that same song, which is kind of cute. It goes a little overboard, I think.
Yeah, it goes. I was about to say. I like the idea, both of them opening up to each other, and in this very personal, moment. But it went on a little too long. Like if they would have cut it down to maybe 20 seconds or so. But it just went on a little too long. I was like, okay, I get the point. It was fun. It was a fun scene.
And it's funny because this happens a lot on television, whether it's a comedy or a dramatic show, or a sci-fi show, or a horror show, whatever. There's something about Hollywood that they seem to think transitioning from drama to musical is something everybody can accept and roll with it. I can't. It bugs me when you switch gears. And that's partly my fault because I don't like musicals. There are very few musicals I like because when I'm dealing with a musical, I'm no longer in reality. Now I'm dealing with, it's a fantasy now. It's dancing and singing, and it rips me away from whatever reality it is that I'm trying to get. So, and I notice they do that a lot. It's like you'll have, whatever the show is, and today we're going to do a musical episode. It's like, okay, they're going to do a musical. Okay, fine, go ahead, do your musical episode. But here, all of a sudden, in the middle of this little episode, they go in full musical mode, pretty much. And it again, I'm nitpicky. I know I'm nitpicky, and I'm glad it didn't last too long. It's that kind of thing. And here's another one that another little quick line. I forget what it was that she says, and then Spock says, "I am envious." And then I'm thinking, but wait a minute. Yes, he has emotions, but now he's admitting to feeling envy. And it's like, okay, maybe he shouldn't have said that. You know, he's opening up way too much to this person he just met.
Someone he just met. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I think if he would have said something like that, and we would have known they had like a longer history together, that actually would have worked in the favor, because that would have shown us that they are really pretty close. You know, they have like a really deep relationship.
They have a history, and they're opening up to each other because of this history. But it's a little weird. And then, but obviously the way they wrap up the show, and the way they wrap up, just like they did with season 2, about forgetting about Burnham and forgetting about all the things that you're not supposed to know about, she tells them to keep your freaky to yourself. So they're both are going to keep quiet about this and never hear about it. So that's how you can retcon everything that happened in this episode, you know, going forward, so people don't start screaming at them.
It wraps up into a nice little bubble where, you know, they're sworn to secrecy.
Exactly, which is what happened on season 2.
That whole season was basically
it was like a big episode of this.
To wrap up that entire season 2, sworn to secrecy, and that's it.
Exactly. Now, the second episode, it's called The Trouble with Edward. What could that be about? And again, when they showed the little trailers, this was, to me, was going to be the funny. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this episode. Again, they're going full comedy here, which I don't mind. I don't mind them. You know, we've had Star Trek episodes that are, obviously, The Trouble with Tribbles and some of these other episodes, they decide, yes, we're going to go, you know, 75% comedy. The B story is the serious story, but the A story is the comedic story. Fine. I absolutely loved it. Once again, you see the science officer leaving because she just got promoted. And technically, I wonder if they should have shown this episode first, because then Spock would arrive on the second episode. But wouldn't this, don't you think this takes place before Spock? Because the science officer is being promoted.
Was she a science officer? Because I thought she was just like...
She was a science officer, and she was becoming a captain on this other ship. She just got promoted, and Spock comes in with the blue shirt as the ensign, you know, the next up-and-coming science officer, I think. But anyway, that doesn't really matter, but unless there's a timing issue here that I'm saying. But anyway, the majority of this episode takes place in a different ship, that they're out there on a mission because there's a planet that needs food, and they're trying to figure out ways of creating sustenance for people. So there's different departments, different scientific departments working on different experiments, I guess, and ways to creating food. And this one particular guy, who I didn't realize who he was until the second time I watched it, played by John Benjamin. And if you don't recognize that name, Bob's Burger and Archer. If you hear his voice, that's that guy. And oh man, he is such a jerk, and you just want to strangle him. And he's very awkward and a jerk on top of it. I can't just repeat all of the funny moments. You just have to see them for yourself. This is a great episode. What did you think?
I loved it. Like I felt it was a bit. I guess I obviously just, you know, was very confident of them to lead with 2 funny episodes, because I was expecting one of them to be serious, and then they're going to do maybe one funny one, but they went with 2 funny ones, and increasingly funny, because this second one was hilarious. Like it reminded me so much of like a mix between like Office Space and the show The Office. It felt like, you know, this sort of, you know, I don't know if I'll call him snarky, but he was just like this like everyday guy. And he has like this chip on his shoulder, where you can tell he's like one of those coworkers where he comes to work, he'll complain and whine about everything. Like, you know, you'll meet him in front of the water cooler, and he'll have some story about how his life sucks, you know, and how he did something, you know, better. You know this guy in real life, and you don't want to be around him.
He just sucks the life out of you.
He's a perfect killjoy. Like, he plays it so perfectly. You like him as you're viewing it, but you can tell like he's one of those guys where you don't want to like him. And so it's like for the whole episode, you're sort of saying like, okay, you know, I hope he gets this coming to him. And then by the end of it, it snowballs into this huge, you know, fiasco. But it's written so well. Like, the comedy on this is perfect. It's my type of comedy. I really liked it.
So his particular project is that he's found these little creatures called Treblusis kentricosis. Tribbles for short, he says. Okay, there we go. Now we got the name. And apparently at this stage of the game, they're not exactly what they will become later, because at this stage, they're not multiplying fast. They're kind of pretty useless in terms of them. He even mentions like one fell off his desk and died. So it's really, it would be pretty easy to be able to get them and, gather them and get them to, for people to eat as long as you shave all the hair out. Because he says they're full of meat inside. They're all meat. And he says, yeah, I tried a few. And it's like, and people are looking at him like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I love the looks on the people's faces because they're all sitting around in like a meeting table, like a business. It's like such like an office episode, but like they're all sitting around like a business meeting table, and like as he's talking, like the camera cuts to different people's faces, like how they're just looking at him, like what are you talking about? Like because he like mentions like he tasted one to eat it, and like one of the other people sitting next to him is like, seriously? Like, it's the timing on it is perfect.
And then we find out that most likely he has been sending complaints to Starfleet about this new captain, that she's a jerk and she should be out of here. And it was an anonymous complaint. And he was like, well, how do you know it was me? If it was anonymous, how could it be me? That he's trying to use this bizarro logic on her and she's not falling for it. And as he's screwing up more and more, we learn that now he's upped the game on the experiments because he's introduced human DNA with these things. He's been splicing them. Now, all of a sudden, the replicating, the reproductive factor of these things is going haywire, which is what we're more used to with these things, to the point where the ship now is getting inundated with them everywhere, every wall, every control.
It's very familiar looking. If you've seen the previous,
there's a really cool shot. It's a hilarious shot of they're arguing about something, and in the background there's a guy with like a huge vacuum cleaner just whoop, 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 sucking them up, and it's like one at a time. And you're like, you're never going to get this job done. This thing is never going to finish. It's full of so much stuff like that. When they have the final outbreak, where they're evacuating the ship, he's walking out of his room like with no pants on because he's completely oblivious of everything. And it's funny because I saw on the internet one person mentioned, and I don't know if this is true or not, that there's a shot of him when he's experimenting with the creatures where he's wearing a black vest. And they're saying that black vest looks a lot like a Section 31 vest. And even the emblem that he's wearing is not the big insignia emblem. It's a much smaller, darker one. So they're saying, is the implication that maybe he's up to no good because he's part of Section 31 trying to develop, a bio weapon under the guise of Starfleet, but, off to the side? And because she even said to him, how did you get so far in this career, being the way you are, like such a jerk? And he was like, I'm a great guy. I don't know what you're talking about. That kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. And then there's also a line, I forget what it was, when they were talking about, did you actually eat one? And he's like, yeah, I ate one, but I'm no chef. He's like, that's a line about, that's a Bob Burger, because he plays a chef in Bob's Burger.
I didn't even put that together. Yeah, so I knew it was the actor, but I didn't even put the.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there were any Archer lines having to do with Archer. So it would have to be like a secret agent type of line. So I would have to watch it again to see it. So we get to the point at the end where the ship is completely swarmed and they have to eject. They have to get on an escape pod and eject because there's nothing left they can do. They're shooting these things, but they're just going too fast. And he is screaming at them because he's like, I created, these are my creatures, you all should be thanking me or something like that. And he gets like consumed by a tidal wave of tribbles and boom, they're out. And you assume he's dead. He got killed. And then there's some kind of like a post-mortem meeting, I guess it's Starfleet, where the captain is, there's a whole bunch of people saying, and you did this, and this is, this was your first assignment, and we lost a ship, and the ship crashed, and there's an incident with the Klingons now that they're complaining about these creatures infecting, I don't know if it was a ship or a planet or something that belongs to them, which then brings you back, again, it connects the whole thing. And my favorite line of the whole episode, they're like, what can you say about this? How could you explain this? And she goes, well, he was an idiot. And that was the end of the episode right there. That was like, oh my God, that is such a great line because it fits perfectly the tone of this particular episode.
Yeah, it was such a tight, good episode. Just, in fact, there's actually a little I guess teaser, not teaser, like a little trailer at the end. That's like also pretty funny. But what I saw was, and I probably spent too much time looking online at other people's reactions to this, but a lot of people were actually angry that like this somehow like broke Star Trek canon, and how it ruined the tribbles, and then if you go back and look at the TOS, this was like the quintessential, just fun, lighthearted episode.
Yeah.
It's not even an episode. It's like a short. It's not even in a season. So how can you?
Right. We might not be ready for a full episode of this, but in a 15-minute version, it fits pretty well.
Yeah, no, it fits perfectly, and I really like how these short tracks can take on these like more fun, lighthearted sides of the stories. It doesn't. Not everything has to be like, okay, this fits into canon perfectly here, or with the timeline there. Just watch it, please. Just watch the episode, have fun, and smile. It's really not that serious.
I know. So far we've only seen 2. So let's now jump over to the latest teaser, or the first teaser, or the mini trailer, whatever they want to call it these days, for the 3rd season of Discovery. All right, so this is the trailer that apparently was premiered on New York Comic Con this past, I don't know, was it September? October? I think it was October.
Early October. First week of October.
Yeah. So when we left off last time, the ship was jumping, and it's even here on this trailer, 930 years into the future. And we can't really talk about, at this point, from a writer's perspective, why that's the decision that they're making. We're just dealing with what we have in front of us. So we see Burnham, I guess, recovering from what could be that suit that she was wearing, the Red Angel suit, and kind of being in the dirt, like recovering from some kind of a crash or something.
Yeah, and it looks like the thing with this trailer is like it drops you in very unfamiliar territory. Like normally in like a Star Trek series, you basically know where the planets are, the quadrants and everything. With this, like literally they jumped not only into the future, but you don't know where, space-wise they are. So it's such a far removed. I mean, it's a good thing. I'm really excited to see now, because now we're so taken away from the normal timeline. We can get introduced to a whole bunch of new stuff and new concepts and everything, and it's going to be all new. You're gonna have no. Because the problem I think a lot of people had with the first season of Discovery is because they sort of shoehorned it right in between a certain time period.
Yeah.
So now with this, it is so far removed. Now they can kind of experiment and sort of be, their hands aren't tied behind their backs anymore.
Yeah, 1 minute you're Star Trek the original series, and the next minute you're Star Trek Voyager. You're in a completely alien environment.
Yep.
Now what we do see is that she's inside it's either a ship or a house or some kind of an artificial environment in whatever planet it is that she was in. And time seems to be passing because you see her hairstyle changes a couple of times. So I guess she's isolated for a while and she's very lonely or something like that.
You see her hair grow out into first it's like various stages of like 1990s hair. It has like the frizzy hair, and it has the braided hair. It's a pretty cool shot.
And then we see what could be a new character that interacts with her as they're being attacked by, to me, what it looks like, and just by mere accident that I did a frame freeze, it's Andorians. Oh, yeah. I see a whole bunch of Andorians here. It's like, holy crap! I don't think we've seen too much of them yet at this stage.
No, we've only seen them. We've only seen literally one Andorian in the first season. I think it was they had that whole resistance thing, the whole resistance team they had.
Yeah, and and that was even kind of like an alternate universe thing too.
Universe.
It wasn't even,
right.
It wasn't even the normal space. But this seems to be followed by a scene where she and this other companion, which is an actor I don't think we've seen in this episode, in this show before. It's a brand new actor, kind of leading her into, I don't want to say the wilderness, but out into green fields, if you will, green mountains and that kind of thing, getting away, I guess, from wherever she was at first. But she seems to be isolated completely, because again, from what we remember, she was on her little spacesuit and the Discovery was after her, separate. So she is, again, moving out there with this other character, and he does mention something about that thing that she's on her chest, that emblem being like a ghost. And that, I think, we're talking about the Starfleet. So this has something to do with, I guess, in this future, whether it is a known or unknown location, Starfleet might no longer be around.
Yeah, I think even the Federation itself, because it seems like, and you'll see in a few scenes down coming up, but yeah, it seems like it's like this forgotten, agency that's long gone in the annals of history, really, because he seems, I mean, he recognized it, but you don't really, he seems to refer to it as something that's long gone, that's not really relevant anymore.
Right. Now, then we see a couple of shots of Saru and, what was her name? Tilly?
Tilly, yep.
Coming inside some structure, some building or something. And they're also not wearing a Starfleet uniform either. So it looks like they might be also searching for something, just like she's searching for something, like they're lost. And then we do go back to Burnham and this other mysterious individual walking into, again, a very clean, I would hate to say Starfleet-ish looking environment where there's like another important person there, and all of a sudden they unfurl a Starfleet, to me looks like a Starfleet flag. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's the United Federation of Planets flag, yeah.
Now, I can't tell, is it even accurate? Or in other words, does it have enough stars on it? Or I can't remember how accurate is it?
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah, I did hear some speculation where it's missing like a few stars or something. So this could be some sort of weird. Yeah,
it indicates a future time, an adjusted emblem or something. I don't know. And the person that's greeting them and talking to them says something to the reference that it's you, that she's the person, I guess, that needs to... She's the important person in this thing. Obviously, she's the star of the show, so it's up to her. I'm sorry, Discovery haters, that she's going to be the one that's going to save us. But guess what? She's the star. Don't tell anyone. Shh, she's the star of the show. Shh.
It's a big secret. Oh man, people are gonna. If she's the one who brings back the entire Federation, people are gonna lose their mind.
I think they should hire.
Be so angry.
They should bring back Wesley Crusher just so he can save the day to piss everyone off. They should bring him to the Picard show just to piss everyone off. Oh my God. Again, in the trailer here, they confirm the date as it being 930 years from wherever it was that they left off. Then you get a whole bunch of freaky stuff. She's like floating in water inside a cave. And the people that she's interacting with are wearing these red shirts, but they have these spots on the side. Is that trills?
It's funny you mentioned that. I thought so too, but I was like, I don't know, because I guess for whatever reason I always associate trills with women, because I've only seen two of them.
Yeah.
So I quickly disregarded it, but you brought it back up, so I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, yeah. To me, that's what those spots. They're almost like little tiny leopard spots.
Yeah.
But they go down the side of the face down to their necks, I guess. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and maybe it has something to do with, because trills they always have like the memories of other hosts. So maybe you see Burnham floating in that tank, that pool of water. So maybe she's like trying to get someone else's memories or something to go back maybe a few hundred years to see what happened here. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. Now, then you get a whole bunch of shots of the crew of the Discovery. They're wearing uniforms. So at this point, and they're hugging each other. So I don't know if this is kind of like a reunion shot in terms of maybe Burnham already made it back to the Discovery at this point, and she's rejoining the crew, and you get shots of the crew. And then you get some shots of the Emperor Joe and her. She's always up to no good. I forget. Was she in the Discovery when we left season 2? Was she part of that?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, that's the thing. She was on the ship when it took off.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's she's there too.
Now here's something very, very interesting, because I remember I caught a little glimpse of it on a Facebook post. There's a shot of what looks like, I don't know if it's transporting or ghosty looking images of, let's say, bad guys shooting forward and running forward. And at least 2 of them, actually, I can recognize at least 3 of them. And they might be part of the Andorian crew, but some of the other characters, one guy looks like Morn from DS9,
yep.
And another guy looks like a Cardassian behind them. And there's a human-looking guy, and there's 2 Andorians, and I don't know what the other guy is, but I have a feeling they're giving us, ooh, he's not an ugly looking guy. I don't know what he is. He's that looks really good. Wow, this looks really good. And I guess this looks like it's more from the beginning of the episode when they're running away from that initial location.
Yeah. I have no idea what this group would be. It's maybe some sort of they're carrying the same style of weapon as the other group. So
it's a completely different weapon I've never seen before. And then you got a lot of quick shots of fighting, which is really hard to tell what's happening. Everybody's fighting. Uniform, uniforms are familiar. Sometimes they're not familiar uniforms, regular street kind of clothes. Who knows what it is? And then you got another shot of this, I don't know, Federation guru or whatever the heck he is, kind of giving her like her final instructions of, this is where your mission is and this is where you're going to go, where it's going to lead you. And she's like, wherever it takes me or something like that. So again, this is only a 1 minute. It's really a teaser if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
They're not giving you a lot, but there's enough images there for, just like we did, to be able to kind of cobble together something. Again, I like the show. This is exciting for me. I know if you hate the show, it's the end of the world. I understand that. But between the short treks and this little trailer, I'm like, let's go. I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Yeah, really. And like I said, I love the style and theme of how the show has, and just the look of it. It's just so cinematic. It's a movie. Yeah.
You're watching a little movie. It's just amazing what they do. Now, granted, we're going to have a lot more of this coming down the pike. I'm sure we're going to have a much longer, at least one more very longer trailer.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Sometime in the near future. So we're not going to go too crazy with this now because this was just a tease that they showed, during New York Comic Con. But as far as we're concerned, we're on board, and we will have more information, obviously, with the rest of the short treks. But let's now jump over to Picard.
The story for this is just, I really have no idea what what the main story of this is.
Once again, we are starting off like in the other previous shorter trailers that they gave us for Picard. We're in France at his vineyard, which looks so, I've watched, what was it called? Family or Reunion? I think it was called Family, the episode, where he goes and visits the vineyard after the Best of Both Worlds. It's a TV budget, I remember. And it's, but here, it's just incredible what they do with the the CGI effects and the robotics, watering the vineyards. And it's like, oh, man, it just looks so damn good. Again, cinematic. Man, does this look cinematic.
Yeah, I love it. It's not even anything over the top or flashy, but you see those two drone things watering the vine. I can tell the show, and I'm hoping I'm right here. I can tell the show is going to be a good, going to have a lot of meat on the bones for world building and giving us a lot of things that we don't normally see, a lot of everyday life type of stuff in Star Trek. Plus,
it's gonna go crazy with Star Trek's own EU. You can imagine all the books and comics that are going to come out of this. And I could have swore I heard something about a comic book that will tie Picard, a prequel comic that will give us a little backstory into where we're at historically.
The road to Picard.
Exactly. Now we get off the bat a shot of Data in full-blown uniform in the middle of the vineyard there painting. And I heard a little bit about this before, not so much a spoiler, but a theory. And it could be, it makes kind of sense because of the way that Picard is interacting with Data. It almost seems like maybe he's just imagining it. He's reminiscing, or Data is kind of like I don't want to say a ghost, but a memory that is with him about something from his past. Because it just doesn't look right that he should be there in that form.
Yeah, and it's shot weird because it's first of all, it's very dreamlike. It's very surreal looking.
Yeah.
And the second, well, obviously the fact that Data's wearing a Starfleet uniform in the middle of a vineyard painting a picture,
right?
That might be a.
And we kind of know that uniform is out of date.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
By the shots that come later. Right. And also, now granted, again, these people are older. Brent Spiner looks different. And the makeup that I see on him and his hairline just doesn't look right. It looks a little off because now. But the thing is, I can't tell. Does he look a little off because he's older, and that's what happens? You get older and you look different, or does it have to do with the script? Is he purposely looking different? Do you remember if he kind of looked a little more like this by the time we got to Nemesis?
No, even in Nemesis, but granted, that was 10 years ago, probably more, I think, right? Than from now. So these actors do get older, but still, it feels like there's something it's something purposefully off because with all like de-aging technology and everything, I think they could have made him look a little more photorealistic.
Because I think his face is a little chubbier. Like his cheeks, his jawline seems to be a little. Again, guess what? We age. That's what happens. But I don't know if you're looking at that shot of him when he first turns around. The actual hairline looks very blurry, but the hair looks sharp, and the front of his face looks sharp. So it looks almost like they purposely blurred his hairline. Again, we could be nitpicking the crap out of this, like we always do, but it looks bizarre. I don't understand. And now the picture he shows him, and he's like, "Would you like to finish this painting?" To me, it looks like it's almost like a woman in a white robe at the edge of the water, but the face, to me, it looks like a big giant alien head.
Yes.
Or does it look like it's missing a face? Because he's asking, would you like to finish the painting?
Yeah, I think because you see the two hands. And it looks
but then
like
I see
face...
on top, it looks like a big eye and a little tiny mouth and a nose cut. Some kind. They look like, you know what it looks like? The Kaminoans from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're right next to the water. It makes sense. It's a cross. They're crossing genres.
Yeah.
Okay, that could
the
happen.
streams. But I'm not sure if he didn't paint the face. And I guess he's leaving him to do it. Yeah,
it's
a very
it's
very
hard to
weird.
say. Now, when they cut back to Picard reacting to Data, he's wearing the old uniform too. He's got the black on top and the red. You could barely see a little bit of it, and the 4-pips.
Yeah. Which again, out of date uniforms for what they should be wearing, current day in this time period. So
Data hands him the brush, and it looks like it's triggering a memory, and all of a sudden you see like these bombardments taking place from the air. These hawkish looking ships, Romulans maybe. I know the Romulans like the bird logo, so they could be some kind of weird Romulan fighters or something, and they seem to be bombing something. And then all of a sudden he kind of wakes up from bed as if he was maybe dreaming this. I mean, that's the implication I get from the beginning of this trailer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, his dog, runs up to him and wakes him up. So yeah, he does definitely.
And his dog's name is Number One.
Yeah, definitely a dream.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned that the dog's name is Number One.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Dog tag says Number One on it or something. So he kind of narrates a little bit and he sounds old. He sounds tired. Now I can't really tell do you think he's overdoing it a little bit? Not in terms of bad acting, but again, he's also not a young guy. And I've seen interviews with him, and even when he was promoting this at New York Comic Con, you can tell that he struggles a little bit with communication. He's older. But I think for this show, he's putting it on a little more. It's a little bit of Logan Patrick Stewart that I'm hearing.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? He's an actor. He's a damn good actor. So I think he's adding a little bit of it on top.
And maybe he wants to give that, because depending on how this show goes, like what directions they're going to take it to, they might have told him, they might have directed him to say, make it a little bit over the top so we can really portray the fact that, yeah, you're out of your prime, you're not where you used to be. So when later on we can, I guess, have a bit more sympathy for him, or whatever they're going to try to, whatever way they're going to take the story to really hammer it home to see, this guy is not in his prime anymore.
Right, but here's where it could work, based on what you're saying. It could work so that whatever's happened to him brought him to a stage in his life that is really beating on him, and it's making his condition worse. Not that he's sick or anything, but he's aging even more than he normally would because of all this baggage he's carrying around. But they could work the story so that as a result of him getting back into the action, whatever the action is, not necessarily Starfleet or whatever it is that he's going to be doing from episode to episode, that he will be more like the old Picard. In other words, we can actually see him behaving younger and sounding younger. So in other words, overact first to show how debilitating you are, and then pull it back so that you're a little more, peppy and youngy, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like a reverse bait and switch, really. Like you overpromise your this presentation that you're an old frail man, and then by the end of it, you can pull back and say, there's the old there's the old Picard I knew.
Yeah. It's like they do this in movies all the time. When you see an actor that is young, purposely wearing a lot of makeup to make him look older, and that's because at some point in the movie they want to make him young, but first they got to show him to you really old. Like if you remember Prometheus with Guy Pearce, he's playing the old Wayland. It's like, well, why would you hire an actor just to put a ton of makeup on him? Oh, it's because you eventually are going to show him young, and you want to see that transition. So I have a feeling, again, here we go again, we're going down the rabbit hole, that the acting style and the way that Picard is behaving is on purpose, because I think they're going to kind of pull back on it at some point. But who knows? We could be completely wrong. Who cares? So at first you're seeing the backstory of where he's at and why he's the way he is. And now we start to get the little bits and pieces. Somebody is coming to him for help, a young woman. And we know we're in San Francisco because we see the bridge, and we see some of these previous shots we've seen before of him coming to, I guess, Starfleet to ask for help or ask questions. And now we get, and we talked about this before, and actually we talked about this on another episode we recorded that we haven't aired yet about uniforms. We get to see the current uniforms now in this time space.
Yeah, and we like we touched upon this earlier, but I really like the new cut of the uniform. It looks pretty cool.
I like the fact that he's there at, I guess, the welcome area, and he's interacting with this young kid, and they show you that. And I wonder if this is just part of the aesthetics, is that because he was the captain of the Enterprise and because they're kind of checking him in, it almost seems to trigger a hologram on the ceiling of the Enterprise circling above him, like, here's our guest, here's where he came from. One of those kind of weird, not social media, but advertising, kind of like Minority Report type of thing, where you walk in and it identifies with you, instantly. And obviously he doesn't have a Starfleet communicator, so they give him a tag, and he kind of puts it on, and you can tell it's kind of like, yeah, this is my tag now. This is my communicator, a stupid little name
This is what
tag.
I've become.
So here's where it gets a little weird. He's inside some kind of data bank place, and he's walking with this girl that looks very familiar to me. She was in another show, Night Flyers. She was an actress in Night Flyers, which was a R. Martin thing. They redid it. It bombed, I think. But and speaking of Minority Report, she kind of looks like one of those, if you remember the fortune tellers or the future tellers from Minority Report. She kind of has that look.
Weird,
kind of like an albino. It could be male, it could be female. You can't really tell. Like this weird futuristic kind of look to her. And then there's a shot of, I have no idea what this is, these guys, these bald guys with kind of Data looking eyes, and it says F8 on the forehead. And it's like, what the hell are these? Are these like Datas that they've been working on secretly or something, like experimenting on their own robots, type of thing?
I guess maybe the hair might be, like the lack of hair might be throwing me off, but they don't look like Data. Like, the Data, maybe there's like another version of it or like an updated version. It just seems very.
Or could this be part of the footage of these possible ex-Borgs that have been deborgified?
I never
and now
thought of
they're
it.
kind of like slightly zombie looking because they're not exactly human or whatever they used to be. So they're all wearing red shirts, because I remember in the other episode there is like a detention facility with a lot of people with red outfits. So again, we're just theorizing here. It could be anything. Who the hell knows?
All right.
So obviously Jean-Luc is there asking for help, meeting with an admiral, and the admiral, she's basically blowing him off as he's all angry,
Yeah,
walking
basically
away.
saying, "Get out of here!"
He's going on his own
up.
mission. He's going to do his own thing. Yeah, exactly. Again, the visuals are fantastic. There's this night shot of, I forget the name of it. It's that classic Hollywood painting of people eating at the diner.
Oh,
and there's rainy outside. It's super famous. It's a super famous painting. And this looks like a combination of that and Blade Runner, because you have this. The street, it's raining, the futuristic buildings, and then the very like 40s looking window, and you see a shot of Picard in some kind of television program or something.
Yeah, I really hope we get a lot more of this like night, neon looking cityscape here.
Yeah.
I love that type of stuff. So
then you have.
I was gonna say I love that feel, but because we also don't see a lot of like big cities at night in Star Trek and stuff like that. I really hope
they never have the budget to do that.
It's true. So I really hope they.
And a TV show, they used to never have the budget. They would all do everything in the studio, and then maybe once or twice a year they go on location somewhere. But this looks, again, it's cinematic. We're going back to that whole thing. It's like, I don't know how they do it. Is it money? Is it technology? What the hell is it that makes it so good? I don't get it. And then you get a whole bunch of shots of him, kind of like committing to, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do this. And he's meeting with different people. And then you see him put on an actual communicator. And it looks like to be a communicator, at least from his time, from where we saw him last, because the emblem looks different, I think, than the new futuristic emblems. Then you get this cool shot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is that rock formation in California where the, what was it, the Gorn?
They shot the Gorn,
Kirk fights the Gorn. I think that's what that location is. It's that those angular rocks. It has a name. Damn it, we're gonna get yelled at for that one, I'm sure. So he's recruiting his team, let's say. So this is a whole bunch of shots of him meeting all these different people, and here's where we get introduced to the cast of the show, which most of them are unknowns to us. They're not very well-known actors or. Yeah, so he's meeting different people and different locations. There's apparently a couple of humans, at least one Vulcan, but he's like a fighter. He almost looks like something out of Lord of the Rings.
Is he a Vulcan or is he a Romulan? I thought he was a Romulan.
I don't know. Well, who knows? I don't even know. But again, I don't know where we're at with Romulans in this series. Are there some defectors, running around Starfleet? Who knows? Now, squeezed in there, I see a Borg ship.
Oh, yeah.
A cube. I think it's a cube, but it's not sure if it's a memory or an active, something that's actually happening at the time, because it's one of these little montages that they do that confuse you.
Yeah, and it looks like it's like being like deconstructed, or there's something going on with it, because these normally like the Borg ships are like green and black. This one's like blue and black, and it looks like there's like chunks of it like being like worked on or removed or something. It doesn't look like it's in its full fighting form, really.
And it looks like you're seeing like the perspective of different people and their memories. There's a shot of 7 of 9 holding somebody and crying. It could be Hugh. We're not sure yet. We see what possibly is the inside of the ship he will be traveling in these adventures with his crew. Okay, now here's where it gets a little weird. There's shots of what looks to me like a original Star Trek Romulan ship being shot at from other ships, but I can't tell if it's a computer simulation or it's an actual shot of what's happening in real life at that moment.
Yeah.
There's a shot of Picard sword fighting, which again brings us back to
this is gonna be interesting. I'm
fencing
curious
days.
to see how that fits into the story.
I see that Borg ship again, more of the cast back and forth. The relationships, I guess, within the crew.
These new characters.
And there's the first shot of Hugh.
Yep.
There's a shot of Hugh peeking behind a wall or something, and you can see he still has some messed up things on his head. And then there's an interaction between 7 of 9 and Picard, and she still has the thing over her eye. Couple of quick shots of her shooting guns in both directions. And now you get something that we hadn't seen before, which was a surprise, I think, around Comic-Con. Not only was Jonathan Frakes, I think, going to direct some episodes, but guess what? He's actually in the show.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how is he going to be like a part of like the permanent, like the whole series, or is this just like a one episode thing where he like sends Picard off to do his thing?
Right, and Troy. So those two
right,
are now,
right,
I guess,
yeah.
at this point, because I don't remember again in Nemesis where we ended up. Were they already married at that point? But at least here, they're definitely married, or you could hear that they have a kid screaming in the background or something. I have a feeling they're gonna just be there as guests. They're not regulars. I don't think they're regulars. I think they're guests, which is perfect. You should pepper this show with classic guests to kind of bring you back, at least to if Data. I don't know if Data was kind of promoted as a regular. I think Brent Spiner, or he might be an ongoing kind of ghost, basically in the back of Picard's
I was about to
mind.
say I don't think he's physically going to be there, but maybe he's going to be sort of like that, like bird on her shoulder, so to speak, sort of like giving him like his like sort of like mission, that where he's gonna be going on.
However, I remember in the previous trailer we did see a shot of somebody opening up a drawer with all Data pieces on it. So that kind of doesn't make it's like why would the fake memory of Data include his pieces? So it could be something that at first is just a memory, and then at the end of this first episode, maybe somebody does reassemble Data for real. Who knows? Again, we're going down the rabbit hole again. It could be anywhere. The other question is this. We kind of know that the story has something to do with Romulans and Borg. Something to do with Romulans possibly deborgifying Borgs and then holding them as slaves, maybe as a slave race, because Picard has to go and kind of rescue. Seven of Nine is involved, and Hugh is involved,
that's
and
very
rescuing
suspicious,
Hugh.
yeah.
Maybe so. And the question is this the plot of the series, or is this the plot of the opening of the series? You know what I mean? It's hard to tell at this point. Where is the series as a whole going to be going?
No, I think from the sound of it, and as such as like a big story as that would be, as like I guess sort of quote unquote rescuing a set of Borg who have been like now taken as slaves, or try to militarize them. That sounds to me like it has the makings of like that's the core of the story, and like there might be something else, tangentially, attached to it. But that to me sounds like it's big enough to be the full focus of the story.
Right, it's a long story that has to be told in episodes, obviously. Then you get a whole bunch of montage, quick shots of action. You really can't dissect it too much because it could be connected anywhere. And then the final shot. Hold on a second, let me replay it so I can hear it. Okay. And the final shot is Picard and Riker, and Picard is kind of leaning over Riker saying, "Thank you for not trying to talk me out of this." Oh, hold on, I gotta so low, the audio is so low I can barely hear. And Riker's reply is, "Believe me, I know better." So it's a nice little, two pals talking near the water.
Yeah, I love that ending shot.
At the dock. Something like that could have been done with a lot of characters. You could have had him chatting with Data that way, but again, because I've been binge watching Next Gen, you could see that Picard now has this very close connection to Riker in terms of how he feels about him, and from the beginning, you're basically told that all the things that he feared in life, being alone, that's exactly where he's at in the beginning of this. You don't see him with a wife. You don't see him even with what was, I guess, what's left of the family. The brother, the actor we know just died. The guy who played his brother at the Vineyards. Yeah, he died like a month ago or something, the actor. So obviously you couldn't bring him back. But I don't know if in the Vineyards you're going to have maybe his widow or maybe the son, the kid that was, playing with Picard. I don't know how lonely he is supposed to be. And I think that's part of the theme of the story is that, bringing somebody who's isolated, old, and and full of memories and full of regrets, kind of back into life, into joining, the rest of the human race.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they're going for. Where it's that he's sort of past his prime, but he's. Because you think like when we leave Picard, and he's like this grand future ahead of him. He's like on top of the world. He's like the go-to guy. But then we come back to him. He's more of like a lonely recluse now. And then to sort of have that story where he comes back into it is that seems like I think that's what they're gonna go for.
Yeah, and according to the slate at the end, January 23rd. That's when we're going to be able to see this. Would not surprise me one bit. And obviously, you don't want to show all your cards in the beginning. I'm convinced we're going to see Worf eventually. We're going to see Geordi. I think we'll even see Crusher and Wesley. We might see both of them at some point too show up in the show. Because these actors are still around, and if this is a show that's going to continue, they're going to have to pepper in these classic people.
I would agree with all of them, but does the actress who plays Beverly Crusher, Gates McFadden, does she have something like against? Has she sort of soured on Star Trek as a franchise? Does she have anything?
I haven't heard anything. I think she still does conventions like everybody else, so I don't think there's any bad blood there.
No, I was just curious because I don't hear much from her, and it seems like she might have had some problems, with the show, and when she left and you came back, I just didn't know if she had anything, long term that was sort of simmering, against the.
No, she was. I mean, it's funny because they let her go because they wanted to kind of pep up the show, and they almost let go of Troy, of Marina Sirtis. But they kept Troy, but they got rid of McFadden, and they brought in Dr. Pulaski for a season, and the fans freaked out, and they wanted McFadden back, and McFadden came back. She could have said, screw you, I'm not coming back, take your show and stick it. But no, she came back, and she did all the way to the end, and then she hopped on the movies. So, if she's dissatisfied, man,
she can hide it well.
Yeah, because she's I think she was always up for it, because I mean, think about it, that this is her career.
Yeah,
really,
well, I mean, a lot of actors actually, they do have sometimes where they get like shoehorned into one role where they sort of over time like resent it after a while. 'Cause I think, not to get on a tangent, but I think I always think that Carrie Fisher has sort of a chip on her shoulder against Star Wars at one point in her life, because it felt like it was like all she was known for basically, and she had like this sort of like chip on her shoulder because she never really got ahead in doing anything else. But
yeah, that happens to a lot of. I mean, even Mark Hamill, if you think about it, he did have he had a Broadway career. He had some movies here or there. Animation, he did, but still, acting. Star Wars is his thing. But then you look at somebody like Harrison Ford, who has a gigantic chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, that's true.
But he made himself even a bigger actor in other places.
Yeah,
but he still had a chip on his shoulder. It's like, dude, you can play anything, and you played anything, and you're still kind of like a grumpy old man in your 30s at the time. So it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But when it comes to Star Trek actors, specifically the big ones, the ones that played commanders or captains, Patrick Stewart, he never had a problem, I think, playing Picard, and obviously at this point he's coming back to playing Picard. He's had many other movies, the whole X-Men franchise. He's Professor X. He's earned his respect, if you will, from Hollywood and films. But yeah, sometimes that is their claim to fame. The guy that plays Cisco, the lady that played Janeway. Scott Bakula had a career before and kind of comes in and out of television every now and then. But a lot of these guys, they just this is their big shot, and some people react differently than others. But I think with Star Trek, overall, for the most part, everybody is pretty cool about it. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. Just as it happens many times, as we're putting the show to bed, we got one more short trek released, which we are going to save for the next time we review these, because we had plenty of material to go over anyway. But I can't wait to watch it. As usual, I'd like to thank Steve for joining me. He's such a huge Star Trek fan that it's great to have so much, extra information when we do these shows. Of course, thank you for listening, and we will see you soon here at GeekFest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
Would you like to finish it, Captain?
I don't know how.
That is not true, sir.
Oh, it's all right, number one. I came here to find safety. But one is never safe from the past.
Please, sir, someone's after me.
I have an appointment.
Your name, please, sir?
Picard, Picard.
It's nice to see you up and around again.
We have an obligation to investigate.
There is no we, Jean-Luc.
Admiral, I am standing up for the Federation, for what it should still represent.
This is no longer your house, Jean-Luc. Go home.
I have to help her.
You really want to go back out into the cold?
More than ever. I have a plan.
Another top secret, unauthorized rescue mission.
This is everything that ever mattered to me. I'm going with you.
I need your skill and your courage. The past is written. But we are left to write the future.
Hold on.
She was sent for a reason.
I'll get the information we need.
I help people who have no one else to help them.
Dad! What? Come out here! Stop yelling! It's Jean-Luc Picard!
Hello, Will.
Jean-Luc.
We all have a story, just waiting to be claimed. Thank you for not trying to talk me out of all this.
Believe me, I know better.
If you would like to subscribe to our show, send us messages, or see video links to some of the topics we talked about today, please visit our homepage at geekfestrants.com or our YouTube channel, Facebook page, or iTunes at GeekFest Rants.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
GeekFest Rants is produced by Carlos Perón, copyright 2019.
This broadcast is part of the IC Robots Radio Network. Visit icrobots.com for this and many other nerd/nostalgia related podcasts. You won't be sorry for long.